In this lesson, we will create envelope objects for the creature's center, pelvis, and tail. Now remember, 3ds Max allows us to use practically any object as an envelope object. If we wanted to, we can work with a point helper instead of a bone object for our root and pelvis. Why would we do that? Well, we don't necessarily need a chain for the root nor the pelvis. We just need an object. So let's go ahead and grab our point helper. We'll add that to our scene. We'll have it centered between the two thigh bones. Remember, we can use a position constraint to center it. And this is another tool I've added to my Animate Quad menu because I use it quite often. So again, with it selected, we'll go ahead and grab our position constraint. And let's now click on the left thigh. So from here, underneath our motion panel, underneath position, we can go ahead and find add position target, and then go ahead and click on the right thigh. So once it has been centered, we know that we can now go ahead and freeze its transforms to clean the object up and to get rid of that constraint. And now would be a good idea to just go ahead and increase the size on this. So it's easy to select. I might bring this to about a value of 12. Let's have this renamed to BN root 01. Underneath tools, we'll grab manage layers and we'll have this stored in our skeleton layer. Great. Let's now go ahead and freeze its transforms. We'll go ahead and clone it with Control V. We'll rename this to BN pelvis 01. We'll now start to drop its size. It's easy to select. Might bring this to about a size of 8. Great. Now if you'd like, you could always go ahead and change the display here. You can add a cross to this object just so that it's easy to differentiate between the two objects. Great. Now another good thing about cloning from our root is that we've already added that root to our skeleton layer, so both objects are now added. So that'll save us some time. Let's make sure that the two thighs are linked to our pelvis bone. So with them both selected, we'll have them linked. And then we can make sure that the pelvis is linked to our root. Alright, great. So as we start to rotate the pelvis, we're now starting to get control over the thighs, and the root is going to essentially drive the entire upper body. You'll see that the IK goals will not follow, and that's exactly what we want. We want to make sure that our goals are tied to our control objects. Okay, so from here, with the root selected, we can now press Control Page down to grab the entire hierarchy. I'll right-click and use Freeze Transform, just to go ahead and clean up those transforms. And now we're ready to create our tail. So we don't need too many bone objects here. We need enough to get some really nice deformations. I think about 6 would work out well. So let's move over to our side view and we'll grab our bone tools. Choosing Create Bones, we'll now go ahead and start to create a chain from the root of the tail all the way to its end. Now let's go ahead and right click. Remember, we can now use Refine to add more resolution to this. Alright, great. So we should have a total of about 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have our nub. Great. And now go ahead and right click, and now we can choose Bone Edit Mode. Let's go ahead and start to use this to adjust the position of each bone object. Alright. So now I'll just start to kind of shift them around so that they're evenly spaced. It doesn't have to be perfect at all, but the main thing to be concerned about is we want to make sure that this lines up with our topology. Great. If we don't consider our topology, then that might throw off our deformations. So we'll just spend the time to make sure that our placement is really nice here so that we can get some great results when we eventually skin the tail. Okay, I'd say this looks good. So take a look at the nub. It's slightly off from its root bone right here at the end. So what we could always do is go ahead and get rid of the nub. With it selected, we'll go ahead and delete it. We'll grab the bone before it and choose Create End. Very nice. Let's go ahead and move back to our perspective view now. We'll want the root of the tail linked over to our pelvis. Once we've managed to do that, we can then go in and freeze transforms on this chain. Alright, so with the root selected, we'll go ahead and press Control Page Down. We'll right-click and choose Freeze Transform. And with them still selected, we could always go ahead and add them to our skeleton layer. Great, let's go ahead and finish up by renaming each bone object. So the naming convention here is really simple. That's going to be BN, tail, A01, and we'll name the others alphabetically. Let's make sure to use a prefix of BE when we get to our nub. So I'll go ahead and leave the others up to you. And that will be it for this lesson. So in the next lesson, we're ready to work on rigging the neck and head.